Okay, I'm here with Nicole Cueno, class of
2002.
2002, yes, and an inductee into the Athletics Hall of Fame here at Grinnell College back in 2007. Track and cross country performer here, a national champion. First of all, how often do you get back to Grinnell to visit?
Well, after I graduated, my brother started here, so I had the perfect excuse to come back fairly often. So I came back for usually a cross country meet or two and a track meet or two. Since he's graduated, I don't have quite as many excuses. So it's been, I think I've come back a couple times since he graduated in 2006. I came back for my reunion, my 5-year, and then I was back earlier this spring, and then for my 10-year.
Okay.
I like to come back, but and I'm from Iowa too, so
Well,
it makes it a little easier.
Well, let's go back to that time. You come from Maquoketa,
Correct.
and had a solid career there as a runner, but you really stepped it up several levels here at Grinnell College. You went from being a good high school runner, very good, to just a phenomenal runner. What was the thing that allowed you to take those next steps up?
I think that it was being allowed to kind of go at my own pace, if you will. I think how I handled pressure and racing was really allowed to develop along with my maturity. I think a lot of times when, at least from what I've seen, a lot of times I think that high school and even middle school athletes, even younger times, a lot of times, if a child shows talent or something, they're pushed really hard. And I think that I wasn't necessarily pushed that hard in high school, which was good because I didn't feel all of that pressure. I really liked to race. I was competitive, but I didn't train year round. So I think with the addition of getting to kind of develop my own passion and love for racing and for running itself in and of itself and enjoying the team, and then getting the benefit of harder training, because I mean we trained hard in high school, but not unless somebody was watching for the most part, and I was fairly self-motivated, but I didn't train over the summers. So I think the year-round training, they always say that training kind of, you see the benefits about 2 years later. So I think that kind of made sense. I started training a lot harder when I showed up at Grinnell, and then it was 2 years later that I really kind of took a jump up in my training. And I think my level of seriousness with it increased as well. And once you start to experience success with it, it's kind of a self-perpetuating cycle in a good way.
Well, you had many career highlights here in both track and cross country. Looking back, can you give me a few that really stand out in your mind?
Well, it's interesting. I think that when I look back to high school, we actually won state in high school, and that's the race that I think of, and very much the team aspect of that. When I think of my races at Grinnell, I think of the individual championship, national championship, mostly because it was a very close race. So I felt amazing about that race, and of course it was one of the biggest of my lifetime. But when I think about the team, I think about absolutely everything else. I loved the competition with all of my teammates, but it was how we interwove the rest of our lives and really supported each other in every aspect of our lives. I lived with runners after my freshman year. My sophomore roommate was a runner, and then junior and senior year I lived in a house with other runners, male and female, which was really fun. So.
What was your major here at Grinnell, and what have you been doing since college?
So I was a religious studies major, and I did a gender and women's studies, whatever we call it, concentration. I can't remember, not a minor. And I did Teach for America, which was one of those experiences that I would never change and never do again. I learned so much, and it was a hard experience too. So I think at the end of those 2 years, I was ready to kind of take a little bit of a break from that, and went back to graduate school. And I think that Grinnell just kind of set me up to go do lots of other things, like go into a teaching in a school that was a little bit harder to teach in, and then I felt really well prepared for graduate school. I went into evaluation studies, which was good. I wouldn't say that I'm using it explicitly now, but I started working at a YWCA in Minneapolis right when I was getting done with graduate school, and I loved it. I loved the people I was working around, and I liked incorporating more of the athletics, but also the management side of it into my life. And I've changed positions about 4 times there, each kind of finding my groove and my niche a little bit more. And I'm now the endurance sports director at the YWCA in Minneapolis, and the race director for an all-women's triathlon.
Oh.
So both really fun things to do, keep me really busy and have a lot of variety. And like I said, the people who I work with I really enjoy, so I kind of feel like if there is a way to create a post-Grinnell, I've kind of created, or no, I haven't created, but I've been able to take part in that up in Minneapolis.
And you certainly still had some success in the world of running with the Olympic trials. Talk about that.
Yeah. You know, when I was first out of Grinnell, I actually needed to take a little bit of a break from running, and it was good. It was nice to take a little bit of a break. Within about 6 months, I was going crazy and really wanted to run again. So I signed up for my first marathon, and it went well. I was nowhere near the Olympic qualifying mark, but I was close enough that it kind of got in my head a little bit. But it got in my head in the way that it was like, oh, that'd be super cool, but I don't know if I could ever get there. And then I think it was actually moving up. I was in St. Louis, Missouri at the time, moving up to the Twin Cities, where there's a really fantastic group of runners, and being in a thriving running community again that made it seem like more of a possibility. And I was around other runners who had qualified for the trials, and my times started going down there, and I qualified the first time, which was an absolute thrill. And it's one of those things that just qualifying for the race is the big thing. You know, you go there and you know you're not going to be in the top 3. You may not be in the top 100. So the goal isn't to go to the Olympics, but cool to go to a race where there are some people who will go on to the Olympics. And I probably would have told you again 2 years ago that I wouldn't try to qualify again, and then my running kind of came together again, and I qualified this last year. And I think it just kind of shows running, you know, follows the rest of my life in terms of providing some consistency, but also, you know, it will change its place in my life according to what else is going on. And it's been an amazing part of my life. I've really met the most incredible people. I mean, what do you talk about when you go on, you go out for 3-hour runs? And it's much more pleasant to have somebody else there. So I've really made some fantastic friends through all of it too.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Nicole, and welcome back.
Thanks.